Hey, beautiful and brilliant mamas. Welcome back to For Black Mompreneurs, the podcast where we hold space for Black women who are mothers and entrepreneurs, unapologetically chasing purpose and prosperity. I'm your host, Femi Lewis. In our last two episodes, I shared my insight on dealing with analysis paralysis and those really evil sisters that keep us from moving the needle forward in our businesses. And today, I'm tapping into something we all fear, but really need to embrace, and that's rejection. If you've been building a business for more than 5 seconds, you've tasted rejection. And if you haven't yet, just wait. It's coming. But here's what I want you to know right from the jump. Rejection is not your enemy. In fact, it might just be your greatest teacher. So today we're talking about how we deal with rejection and the powerful lessons that come wrapped up in those moments, in those painful no's, because those rejections, they're not roadblocks, they're redirections. So grab your coffee, your tea, or whatever keeps you going, and let's dive in. I remember when I first started my business and really started promoting myself, I pitched to what felt like hundreds of potential clients. And while I got some yeses, the rejections came fast and really frequently. I heard things like, "We're going in a different direction. Your approach isn't quite what we're looking for. We've decided to work with someone else. And my personal favorite, we don't have the budget for that." But here's what I learned that changed everything for me. Every rejection was giving me information, not just about them, but also about me, my business, and where I was headed next. So when we're focused on the pain of rejection, we miss the gift inside of it. And that is why we have to focus on what is the lesson. And that gift might be feedback about a proposal that we've given, or insight into our target market, or clarity about our pricing. And sometimes that gift is even protection from a situation that would have been wrong for us anyway. So I want you to think about rejection like this. It's not personal, even when it feels personal. Instead, it's data, it's information, it's lessons. And we're going to use that data, that information, and those lessons to build something better. So let's get into the real lessons rejection teaches us, because sis, these lessons are really golden. So I'll share a quick story about something that I recently did. For years, I've been seeing things about business pitch competitions, and I was like, I don't know if that's for me, but I recently decided to push past that imposter syndrome and analysis paralysis. And I stepped out on faith and I participated in a pitch competition. I did all of the classes you had to do before you could participate. I looked up things about pitch competitions and writing the pitch decks. I practiced and prepared it. I got feedback on my pitch. I took the kids even to Dave and Buster's one day, sat at a table and tweaked the pitch deck. I rehearsed it some more. I refined it even more. And then I delivered. And I thought I delivered in a way that was going to get me one of those big checks. But on the night when the winners were announced, I didn't win. Did I feel a bit of a gut wrench? Absolutely. It is natural to be disappointed when your pitch is rejected. But then I thought, you entered, right? You shared your story, right? Absolutely. You tried. You're still a winner. So here are some lessons I learned from this moment, and I've been applying to all moments of rejection, because you know what? If we just sit in the pain of rejection, we can miss out on the beauty of the moment and the experiences that we had. The first lesson I've been thinking about is that rejection can help you clarify your why. So when someone says no to your business, it forces you to dig in a bit deeper into why you're doing this work. Is it just for money? Absolutely not. Is it because you think you should, or is there something deeper driving you? You know, while developing my pitch, I had the opportunity to truly consider why I have decided to work with entrepreneurs who have a deep desire to position themselves as thought leaders in their business. But early on, I was just focused on service-based entrepreneurs. And it was through the pitch, practicing, preparing, and even not winning that I learned the real reason for running my business is essential because it helps other entrepreneurs share their greatness. So that night at the pitch announcement, a few people came up to me and was like, I want to learn more about your business. I like the message that you shared. And so that really taught me that I had to think more about the magnitude of the mission. My second lesson is that rejection refines your message. Every no is going to give you information about how your message is landing. Maybe your value proposition isn't clear. Maybe you are talking to the wrong audience. Maybe your story needs tweaking, and that's all fine. I said before when we were talking about analysis paralysis, done is better than perfect. So these are those opportunities where you can go back and make those changes. Early on, I always had a string of rejections that mentioned the same thing. They liked my energy. They weren't sure about my expertise. And so that really had me think about how I shared my message and how I share my credentials and my experience so that I would come across as someone who had the expertise and the ability to carry through a project. So here's my third lesson. Rejection is going to build resilience. This is a big one because every rejection that you experience is making you stronger for the next one. And you might feel beat down, but it's like you just have to take that beat and get up and keep going, because you'll start to realize that a no doesn't define your worth or your business's potential. It's really just that information, right? So even think about this. Think about our children. When they're learning to walk, they fall down all the time. They don't take that as evidence of not being able to ever walk. And as their mothers, we don't take that as evidence that they might not be able to walk, right? Sometimes we might see them and realize that they might need some support with walking, and so we take them to the right specialist. That's what they need, or we guide them, but they get back up. And rejection teaches us that, to develop that same resilience in our business. So circling back to the pitch competition I entered and didn't win directly, because I believe that all lessons are wins. For years, I'd seen pitch competitions and never entered, and there was just something blocking me from entering. Imposter syndrome and analysis paralysis. And I just watched as other people participate. But entering this pitch competition and losing helped me realize that I could do more than just talk about the concept of entering a pitch competition to my friends, like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I could actually do it. And I could use it as a springboard for beefing up my confidence as a public speaker. So here's our lesson 4. Rejection can also reveal your true supporters. So, there's tons of naysayers in our lives sometimes, those people with fixed mindsets, not growth mindsets. And you will realize that those are the people that are telling you to stop trying to do what you're doing. But the people who are truly believing in you and showing up for you when you face a moment of rejection, they're going to show up louder and prouder than ever before. They're going to help you refine what you're doing. They're going to give you encouraging words. They're going to refer clients to you if they're in the space to do that. They're going to share your content. They're going to remind you of why you're so amazing. And, I just want you to use rejection to look at people in your life, in your business circle, and see who you can separate, right? Can you separate your cheerleaders from your haters and move forward with the people that really want to support you? So here's our 5th lesson. Rejection can prevent the wrong partnerships. And so sometimes, rejection can be a protection. That potential client who was giving you a hard time just in the proposal process about, how much money you're going to charge or your milestones or things like that, or wants to disrupt your operation, your way of doing things, that potential client would have been demanding and difficult to work with and would have disrupted your way of doing business. It would have potentially had you compromise who you are and what is important. So you have to think about that. If it's a partnership that would compromise your values, or an investor that would want you to change everything about your vision, then their rejection might have saved you from months or years of misery. So now that we've talked about the lessons that go along with rejection, I want us to get a little practical. How do we actually handle rejection when it happens? Because it's cool to talk about there's lessons in this, and this is all data and information. But, we also have to think about our feelings and how we can be strategic in moving forward so that it hurts for a moment, but we keep pushing on. So the first thing I want you to do is feel it and then move through it. So give yourself time, but then move through it. I once landed a contract position that I really wanted, but within a week into the project, I knew it was not the right fit for me. As the project wrapped up, I remember being so upset that I wasn't able to continue the project. And I spent a little bit too much time stewing over the issues that were present in the workspace and the outcome of the project and how it was so different from what I wanted. And I learned a lot from that. Well, I don't believe you should skip tending to your feelings. Our feelings are important. I don't want you to let your feelings have you thinking too long or too hard. If you're disappointed, be disappointed. If you're angry, be angry. If you need to cry, have a good hard cry. But then give yourself a time limit. It could be 24 hours to feel all of your feelings. And then I want you to shift into solution mode. I've started putting a timer when I've experienced rejection that upset me. And I say, okay, I'm going to be upset about this until 3 tomorrow. And then I'm going to figure out what's next. And creating that kind of emotional boundary, it helps me process without getting too stuck in the moment. So my second tip is I want you to look for the lessons immediately. So once you've had that time lapse and it's over, it's time to get busy. As soon as you can think clearly, I want you to ask yourself, what can I learn from this moment? Was there feedback I can use? Is there a pattern I see in across multiple rejections? So you don't want your lesson to get lost in the emotion. You could even keep a rejection journal if you need to, right? Where you write down what happened, how you felt, and what you learned. And you'll be amazed at the patterns you start to see. So my third tip, I want you to celebrate the courage it took for you to step out, right? Because you remember we talked about analysis paralysis and imposter syndrome and how they hold us back. So when you are rejected, it also means you tried something. You put yourself out there, you took a risk, and that deserves celebration, even if the outcome wasn't what you necessarily wanted. So think about celebrating rejections as much as your acceptances. If you tell yourself, I got a no today, which means I asked for something I wanted. And that is huge courage. Okay. My next tip is to maintain your pipeline. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And this is really crucial in business. You can't be waiting on one client or one investor or one opportunity to run your business, even from a financial standpoint. And if you do it and you're putting all those eggs into a basket and you get no, then your rejection feels even more devastating. But if you've got multiple possibilities in play, then each individual rejection is going to sting less because you're like, I got this other contract over here. I have this other thing going on. So think about it like this. Always be planting seeds. Always nurture relationships. Always have your next opportunity in development. So here's number 5 and the big one. Remember your win. When rejection hits, our brains want us to forget every success we've ever had. And so I want you to keep a wins file. Kind of like in the imposter syndrome where I'm like, keep your file where, your unicorn file. I want you to have a wins file. Screenshot those happy client messages, the records of successful project, evidence of your growth and impact. I want you to read it when rejection makes you question everything and keep yourself moving forward. So now that we've covered lessons and tips, I want us to talk about how changing how we think about rejection entirely, because our mindset around this determines everything. So first, I want you to stop calling it rejection, and maybe I should have framed that from the beginning. Think about it as a redirection. That client that told you no, they're redirecting redirecting you toward a client who's perfect for you. Or if this is somebody that you really want to work with, they're redirecting you in how you deliver your message or a timing that's right? That investor who passed on you, they're going to make way for a new funding source that aligns with your vision. Remember that every no is clearing the path for your yes. So second, I want you to remember that rejection has nothing to do with you. The client who chose someone else might have had a pre-existing relationship with that person. The investor who passed might be focused on a different set of industry, or the partnership that fell through might be about their internal issues and not necessarily about your worthiness. Sometimes we make rejection mean something about our value, but most of the time it's about timing, fit, resources, or factors that are out of our control. Third, consider what might feel like rejection might actually be a divine protection. How many times have you looked back on rejection and thought, thank God that didn't work out? Sometimes the universe is saving us from situations that would have been wrong for us. So here's what I want you to remember. You're not building a business for everyone. You're building a business for your specific people. Every rejection gets you closer to finding your following. I want to leave you with this. Your business, your idea, your vision, your dream, it's all valid. The right people need what you have to offer. And every rejection is just clearing space for the connections that are meant to be. This week, moving forward, I want you to try something. If you're facing a current rejection or disappointment, I want you to write that down. I want you to write down 3 lessons you can take from that moment. Then I want you to write down 3 actions you'll take based on those lessons. If you haven't faced rejection yet, prepare yourself mentally. It's coming. And when it does, you'll be ready to learn from it instead of being destroyed by it. Remember, every successful entrepreneur has a collection of rejections behind them. Those rejections didn't stop them. They fueled them. You've got this. Just keep putting yourself out there. Keep asking for what you want and keep building something amazing for your family and your future. Until next time, keep shining your light, keep building your legacy, and keep showing up for yourself and your dreams. This is For Black Mompreneurs, and I'll see you next week. Peace.